Thank you all for coming. Thank you for dealing with the technical difficulties. I hope you guys are all ready to ask your questions. If you are watching on Twitch or in Discord, please remember that once we actually get to that point in the meeting, you must put your questions in the meeting questions channel in the Discord for them to be answered. But we will also be having a video as well as the written notes after the fact for every community meeting, just like we normally do. We have a few announcements to start, and then we will move to the large number of pre-submitted questions. So, for our general updates, we would like to just remind you all that Netherite is still very much a work in progress in regards to many of the plugins for things such as races, classes, etc. Netherite is essentially in beta. There are things that are not currently working, there are things that may be adjusted down the line, there are things that aren't quite finished. Everything may be adjusted, changes may happen to certain things, such as an example would be the item frame limit that we have that may or may not be adjusted. We can't say for certain at this point yet, but I just want you guys to know that everything is very much sort of still in flux, so just because something is currently away does not mean it may not change later, but I also am not going to guarantee that things are definitely going to change with regards to how certain plugins work either. But as always, staff wants to thank you all for your patience with everything. For some Netherite specific things, titles, as an example, are still one thing that are planning to be transferred. You should not need to ticket for them. However, it's going to take a little extra time as only a couple of people can work on them. We also currently have a known issue with e-store purchases for boosts, where they will not register some of the time. Sometimes it seems to be working, sometimes it is not. If you do purchase a boost and do not get mail and it doesn't activate within a few minutes, please submit a ticket or reach out to an admin. The issue is being looked into, as well as to what is causing it and how to fix it. Another e-store issue is currently rank upgrades. Currently, any rank upgrades from playtime or donation may have some issues visually with the tab list and with your name tag above your head. This is also a known issue, and we are also working on it. However, if you notice it, please ticket. This should still have no effect on your actual rank permissions, and those should kick in as soon as the rank purchase actually goes through. That one in particular is just a visual issue. Pretty much in general, if you come across any issues at all, please don't hesitate to ticket them or to poke a staff member. We do try our best to catch everything, but staff is human too, and we rely on you guys, the community, to help be our eyes and bring things to our attention that we may have missed. Staff would also like to make a bit of an announcement and reiterate a topic that's been discussed many times in the past and has come up recently as well. If a custom Vox item is changed in an anvil, name, material, enchants, and not just limited to anvils, smithing tables, etc. Basically, if you physically edit a custom Vox item and it later needs to be replaced, if the item has drastically changed, it may not be eligible for a replacement. An example of this would be if you use a smithing table to make a sticks into a netherite pickaxe. That will make it ineligible for a trade-in, as sticks is a diamond pick. We have been saying this a long time. I realize not everyone always hears exactly the same information in chat because you're not always online at the same time that people are talking, but this is also in our rules section on our website. The website does have a list of all of the server rules as well, so if you are uncertain of something, you should always check there as well. we're currently saying drastic changes. As for extra enchants, it may depend on what or how the actual transfer works. We don't have an exact list of what items and what changes will make things ineligible as of yet, but if you have modified it at all, there is a chance it will not be eligible. That's another reason with the enchants, is because exalt orbs do exist, but it would really depend on what has changed specifically. Again, we don't have an exact list yet, but we wanted to take a moment to bring it up as well officially here, so that we can make sure that there are as many sources as we could possibly have given people to get this information.
The smithing table will probably be a more common drastic change that will make items ineligible.
A long while back, the system that prevented people from adding enchants to items had broken, and people started adding them. Staff had from that point been telling people that if the items broke, they would not be refunded, because people were supposed to have known that that was supposed to still be a thing. But it becomes a weird problem of the plugin preventing it broke, and in general, if you have edited a custom item severely, it's just may not be eligible. And we wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that. Okay, and kind of one more thing regarding player error type of situation. 1.18 items, such as copper, or drip leaf, or amethyst, will break, i.e. go poof, if you try to bring them back to the 1.16.5 servers with MinePack. This is because the items physically don't exist on 1.16.5, which is what the old servers are in. I think that there may have been a miscommunication. I'm not sure if people thought the old servers were also updated to 1.18, but they are not. They are still 1.16.5 for Emerald, Diamond, and Gold. So if you try to bring back items that physically don't exist, they will disappear because they don't exist. This is unfortunately considered player error. At the moment, I understand that some people have been bringing back things like cobble and dirt because crates are unable to be created yet on Netherite, but basically just don't bring 1.18 materials into your mine pack and then open it on the old servers if you want to save those materials. Yeah, we wanted to bring it up because it did happen at least a couple of times that I'm aware of, and I'd like to prevent more people from possibly falling victim to it in the future. So we are going to start with our pre-submitted questions, and I would like to just add a note, because I'm sure some people who did submit questions are actually here. If your question was really, really long, I kind of edited it down to the basic actual question that was being asked, because I don't want to read paragraphs and paragraphs of details that may or may not be relating to the question. There were also a few questions that more than one person asked, so I just combined those into one section that we'll talk about. I'm not going to answer the same question twice. So, what mods are allowed if we are using Curse Launcher? No matter what launcher you're using, Fabric, Forge, Curse, etc., I know there's several out there. It really depends on the mod itself. We can't really truly give a specific list of these are okay and these are not, because there are so many possibilities for mods out there. The general rule of thumb is that any mods that provide a significant advantage to gameplay, PvE, PvP, X-ray type of mods, are not allowed. Those that enhance gameplay may be allowed. If you have a question about any mods in specific, you can always message a disciplinary staff member to ask if it's okay to use. certain mods that we have allowed, I think Zero's Minimap and like easy villager trading and Lightmatica, that's one that we've been mentioning a lot with the move. That is one we do allow. Lightmatica is a building mod. Easier villager trading is kind of like it saves you some clicks, and the minimap just helps you find where you're going. Those aren't considered the same as X-raying. Those are enhancement to your gameplay. They are not I'm gonna win over other people type of mods. So just in general, if you're not sure if something is allowed, you can always ask. And I would prefer that you ask than to just make an assumption. Slendy does have a mod folder that's pinned in off topic that are approved mods. Doesn't mean you have to use all of them, but Slendy does very nice work of putting it all together. People who use inventory and chest sorting mods, I believe we have said that they are okay, but if they poof items, we don't generally refund for that because it tends to interact weirdly with like custom items and some such. Sort of like a risk of using it, but because it's just a sorting mod, it just moves things around in your inventory, but sometimes it doesn't cooperate properly. I believe the old like chest sort thing was actually only ever enabled on Diamond, and it was also toggleable, so people didn't have to use it. But I think Zombie only ever actually enabled it on Diamond because he was like testing it, and then I think he forgot to put it on the other ones. I don't even remember. But yeah, if you ever have a question about things that are allowed, usually the best people to ask are disciplinary staff, which would be admins and mods. So that would be red and gold names.
And we do talk.
There seems to sometimes be a perception that we don't talk to each other. We usually discuss mods, especially if we're not sure. We discuss everything really, but we're usually if we're not positive right off the bat if a mod is allowed or not, we will discuss it with the other staff and then get you an answer as soon as we have one. Next question. When we have races working again, will we have the same set of races to choose from? Will some old races go away? Will any new races be introduced? I imagine that there are going to be a few of you who will be unhappy if a lot of our answers are work in progress, but races are still currently a work in progress. The GMs are working very hard on a lot of different things right now. We do plan to have some new races, and it is possible that some of the older races may not come back. It's not been 100% finalized yet, so I'm not going to give you a list at the moment of like what's not coming back and what is coming back and what's new because it's not 100% finalized as to all of those details. Next question. What's the status of XP transferring? Apparently Soul Emeralds only give 80 to 90% of what was required to make them, and slash trade is being worked on at the moment. Was just wondering. There was also a secondary question about this, so I'm going to answer it at the same time. So we do currently plan to implement a system for XP transfer that should theoretically work better than Soul Emeralds. However, it is still a work in progress and requires some testing first. We're going to let you know via news and updates if/when it is implemented. And until then, you can hold off on XP transferring or use Soul Emeralds if you would like. I would definitely say if we're unable to get it working, hopefully we would be able to give you a heads up so you can transfer it via Soul Emeralds before the maps close, so I don't want you guys to panic or worry that if you wait, you won't get it done. Question. What's the possibility of the 5-chunk rule being changed to 10 chunks since the new map is so large? This was one of the much longer questions, but this is essentially what it boiled down to. The answer to this is going to be maybe. There are not currently any plans to do this, but if we get enough support for updating the rule, it could be something that we would consider. There's been currently no discussion amongst staff about it yet, but it's something we can consider. I'm not going to make any promises at this time, though. You know, polls would be great, but the problem is when we do polls, a lot of times people in the past have not actually taken the poll, or sometimes we've done polls and people get very rude with us because it's anonymous, and that kind of irritates me. But
They don't have to be anonymous.
I only dislike it when people use anonymity to be mean, because there have definitely been some comments we've gotten before that were deliberately mean. But I'm not saying everyone would do that, but we could definitely try to do polls more. I just hope we would actually get some responses. I would actually love to do a poll again about what kinds of things you guys might want to see in giveaway.
We should just not make them anonymous. Force people to put their name. Well,
I can see the benefit of doing that, but I can also see how it might turn some people off from it. But basically, I just don't want to see the people who put their time and effort into actually making the polls, and for us as staff, like, having to read them and read the suggestions. It feels very rude when you get a question, when you get an answer to something that's almost derogatory towards us, like and it feels like unnecessary, like, why bother answer the poll if you've got nothing nice to say? I mean, not that we're not open to constructive criticism, but there's a difference between constructive criticism and criticism. The reason with the 5 chunk rule, they can't expand. You are correct for that. Technically, that means they can't expand in your direction, but we do also have rules against landlocking, basically meaning that if you're on, like, 3 or 4 sides of someone and they can't expand in any direction, that's also not allowed. So though they can't expand towards, say, you in this example, if it were me and you and our towns were like 5 chunks apart, as long as you can expand in at least like 1 or 2 other directions, you can still expand. You just can't expand towards me, or vice versa. As we said, we haven't had any direct plans to change this, but it is something that we can discuss and consider. Yeah, for absolutely, if you want to post up a suggestion about it, or if anybody has, again, as always, has any suggestions about anything, not just this topic, please go ahead and post them on the Reddit. The next question. Is there a time frame on when crates will be working where you can create them on Netherite? Not even with new things added, but working with what you can create now on the old servers. I understand there are likely much more important things right now, but was just curious, and I'm sure others are as well. We do want you to be able to create things, to create crates on Netherite. Like, that is not something that we're not working towards. Like, it's not, oh, it's never coming. It's broken. We are going to fix it. However, we do not yet have a set date and time for when it will be working. In the meantime, you are still able to use the old server to create items, because you can move them back and forth with the mine pack. But also please remember that this does not work for items that are above 1.16.5. But we actually don't have crates for anything that's in 1.18 either. The reason that it's, like, basically broken is we essentially have to rewrite an entire portion of what makes crates creatable to work with the new server. And that's just a time-consuming process on top of all of the other time-consuming processes that we are working on. So there's sort of not really an order of priority, but some things are more important to do first, and then some things are also kind of getting done as we go, but it takes a while. A lot of grinding work, basically. It's more that it's time consuming, and it's just going to take us a little time to get it done. I wish I could give you a specific deadline, but I also don't want to promise you a deadline and then not be able to deliver on it either. That to me is worse than not giving you guys a more concrete deadline, is to give you a deadline and then not meet it. I don't want to disappoint you guys. The next question. Is there a time frame on when outposts will be able to be created? Or whatever the land's equivalent is. I've been wanting my area protected by lands, and unfortunately had not good things happen because it wasn't protected by lands. Well, first of all, if something happens to your land, to your home, whether it's protected by the town plugin of lands or not, if someone griefs or destroys or loots your build, you can always report that via ticket, and moderators and admins can look into it and usually can fix what happened. If it's simply because of creepers, I can't really help you with that. But if it's another player, we can help you whether you're in a town or not. As for the outposts, in lands they are referred to as camps, and we know that this is a feature many people are looking forward to. At this time, we intend to enable the camps after the map merge has completed and the old servers are closed. I don't have an exact specific date for you yet, but that is where we have kind of landed on that, is that it's going to be after the merge is completed. Question: is there going to be a glowstone breaker being released soon? There is so much glowstone in the town on old server and takes way too long to break them so they can be brought to the new map. So, yes, we have actually today added the light breaker to the glass breaker trader downtown at the fountain on the old servers. It will work with glowstone, sea lanterns, and redstone lamps. I will say it is slightly more expensive than the glass breaker, but it will also, much like the glass breaker, not work right away on netherite, just like the power pick also, because sockets. Down the line, we will likely remake that and be able to do transfers, but for the moment, it will work on the old servers, so you can tear down your giant glowstone builds or sea lanterns, and it works faster than just silk touching 100 stacks of glowstone. Next question. A few people asked this, actually. Is there any chance we can increase the despawn timer for cobble/dirt? The current short time makes it hard to gather when needed. The reason that certain very common materials, cobble and dirt, were lowered from the normal despawn time is because of, it was one of our fixes for the massive amounts of lag that kept happening. I'm not sure if that's something we will adjust, but it's something we could potentially adjust in the future, but I'm not sure if we'll be doing that right away. So the full answer would kind of be, we can discuss it, but I'm not going to make any promises at this moment. I believe it's, what if I remember correctly, it's like cobble dirt and like netherrack, because they're very common and people have a slight tendency to leave them just lying on the ground. Question: should I bother bringing any or all of my perception drops and socketing orbs over to netherite? Is there any chance they will be made useful? So there are plans to implement features similar to socket orbs and perception drops. However, this may require new items, and the old items themselves will likely not have direct replacements. You can basically do with them as you wish, but we can't promise that they'll have any use, and likely won't. The perception drops themselves, I'm not 100% if they will or not, but like the actual sockets and orbs will more than likely not. We realize that it's, one of those things that it's just sort of feels a bit rough that, you have these whole bunches of items that no longer have a use, but change happens, and we've done our best to do lots of replacements for a lot of things. But much like in the past when spells have changed, we don't usually refund for spells that are going away. We're sort of also kind of doing that with regards to like orbs and things. Some things are just not gonna have refunds. We're usually, when it comes to things that we refund, we usually try to take into consideration things that people have spent a lot of actual real money on, as well as like redoing all of the custom item. I mean, that's a lot of our custom items run on sockets, so like replacements for those make sense, but we literally cannot replace everything, or there'd never be an end to the replacing. Next question. Is there a way you can raise the amount of areas we can create in lands? Currently, it caps at 10. This is one of those things where we also haven't discussed it yet, but it is something we can look into. I'm not sure all of the balancing that goes into everything in lands, but we are still adjusting things here and there, so we can definitely consider it. You know what? We could easily distribute a book to everyone that says thanks. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for reading the lands guide.
Thank you for reading all of our updates and
Oh yeah, there's a
announcements.
lot of updates, the compensation guide, the lands guide, just all of the announcements and all of your patience, and I love all of you guys. And I appreciate especially those of you who make sure you read all of the announcements and all of that and keep up to date. Okay, next question. Since iron bars are an export, can we please have copper bars added to export? So, export trades in general do need a little bit of an overhaul and an update. We do not have a current time frame on when we will be able to do this, as it's not one of the highest priorities. However, it is very much on the list of things that we would like to do. It's sort of taking a backseat to things like races and classes and cards and data transfer and all of that very important stuff to be done, but as the ever farmer, I very much do want to do an update for export. At this time, we cannot promise anything whatsoever. However, a copper trade-in seems very reasonable. I'll answer your question. The highest priority right now is making sure the servers stay up. That is and will always be our highest priority. When it comes to actually what's going on the server, the things that I listed off are kind of like the current priorities. We don't really usually make a list of, oh, top priority, unless, something broke that like broke everything. That would usually switch to our top priority, but yeah, the server being up and the TPS being reasonable. It is likely that performance may improve once the other maps are gone, but we can't fully promise anything exactly. I'm not sure if we'll be rebalancing every trade either, or if we'll just be adding new stuff, but I'm definitely down to consider all of the things in export. The only thing I will guarantee you guys about it is that Visor will not forget about it, because I have been wanting to do an update for it for forever. I keep actually, before I was an admin, I was working on like a document of like how we could update things, but I have to go back over that because a lot of economy has changed since then too, so I have to recalculate certain things. I have been an admin since the day before Halloween last year. Yes, Jen. Visor's volunteering to do the update. Moving on. Question. Will there be a nether resource world? Well, the answer written down is shrug emoji, so... But the real answer is that very possible. I don't want to spoil absolutely everything. I know that we've mentioned before that we've plans for the resource world and we think you're going to really like them. That's pretty much all I really want to say on the subject. We keep promising resource world. We are going to have resource world. But all of the balancing of trying to get everything working is more important than adding another world with another whole bunch of lag right off the top of the bat. Question. Would it be possible to add ender chests, gold and emerald blocks, raw ore blocks, and diamond ore to the list of items LWC can interact with? I'm not going to read all of this because it's kind of... The point being that like people may want to protect these and don't necessarily use lands. I'm not sure I'm going to be completely honest. I am not sure what goes into determining what blocks LWC can interact with. For those who don't know, that it would be the /lock plugin, by the way. So that might be limited to the plugin itself. It might be something that we can adjust. We will have to look into it. If it is something that we can physically adjust, it may be possible for us to allow different things as well to be /locked, but I can't make any promises at this point in time. If it is limited by the plugin, then we wouldn't be able to adjust things. So basically, we'll have to look into it first. Hydration is important. Question: is there a chance of /furnace coming back? That was super useful when we had it. Now I gotta carry around a furnace and fuel /teleport for one. Even if it doesn't give XP when using it, it would be awesome. So that was removed a while back when I know there was some consolidation of different things going on. Or was that the 1.13? I think that was from the 1.13 update. So it may have been from a depreciated plugin, because that happened with several things, like Quiver got removed because it was no longer able to function with the update. So
I think it broke when we updated to 1.13.
yeah, I think that's what happened. Is I think it broke when we updated, because there were several plugins that did, and I think Furnace and Quiver were along the same lines. Some of the custom storages didn't want to cooperate. Or not storages.
Hopefully
you know
we
what I mean.
can.
If we can find a way to do it, I don't see why we couldn't give that back, because that was a rank perk, I think, too. But I don't see why we couldn't try to do it, but I can't guarantee that we'd be able to find something to manage that. Something we can look into, but can't make a promise on, but I'm definitely willing to look into it.
A plugin just for /furnace seems like a little bit of a waste of space.
Seems a little excessive, but if we can find something that maybe does other stuff that we could use too, I mean, I'm not opposed to it if we can find one. If we could find something that does like those virtual type things, and we can add like a smoker and a stone cutter and a furnace, like, we can do that. I'm totally good. I would also like to reiterate that we do appreciate it if you do not litter downtown. Please
You
try
get
not to.
caught, you get smited.
See, Bird may smite you. I'm just gonna fill your inventory with all the items you litter. Question: can we get glowstone, shroom lights, and sea lantern crates added to export traders? The trades on the old servers in the building near Fountain aren't really reasonable, too expensive / not balanced with the rest of the prices of other blocks. A set voucher amount per crate or gold block per crate would be nice. I would say that would probably fall kind of under like an export update, but I don't think that's unreasonable. There are certain materials that are a lot like harder to obtain, so giving other ways to obtain them could be a good idea, like glowstone and shroom lights, especially shroom lights, because they're, I don't think, other than going to the nether and destroying those like crimson forests and the warped forests, I don't think they really like repopulate themselves. And sea lanterns, same thing. Definitely something we could look into, and I'm definitely not opposed to it. I remember when those traders were placed downtown in the building that used to be the casino, and I complained then that they were too expensive. But then again, I have also been pointed out that my definition of expensive and other people's definitions don't match. They were deliberately made expensive. It was a way to still get some of the materials, but a money sink. I realize everyone likes to have money, but if everyone has millions upon millions of voxels and never spends it on anything, well, then voxels really have no value anymore. So that's why you have to buy things sometimes, and that's why there's actually an event that's literally designed to make you guys spend your money, okay? And the claw machines were a great thing. As many of you have shown us this month with the mystery package, you enjoy gambling. Well, the whole point behind the mystery package is that you can kind of donate what you want, but because of Minecraft's EULA, we have to give you a prize or an item for it. The Minecraft EULA doesn't allow just a straight up donation to help the server option for whatever reason. That's why the mystery packages came about. I think I also said this last meeting, but yeah. So the gambling aspect is kind of like a fun way to do it, but it's not literally there just for the sake of, oh, we want to throw gambling at you. We just decided that instead of only having like one item, it's more fun for people if there's more than one thing to collect. Oh, I just realized I never flipped over my screen to where I'm actually sitting. There you guys go. A little surprise to a place downtown that none of you have found yet. Also, Harley, to answer your question, I am currently downtown, but you will not find me.
By the way, don't go out of bounds of downtown.
Yes, just a general reminder to everyone that if you have to use an item to glitch into a place, whether it's a custom item or an ender pearl or what have you, to glitch behind the scenes in something, that means you haven't found the correct way to get to it, and please stop doing that.
And you're
Especially
not meant
trying
to
to
be
go
in.
out of the realm of the actual downtown area. Please don't.
Yeah, you're not meant to be in very far coordinates.
Any quote unquote secret places, there are ways to get to them. If they're truly secret, they're not going to be where you guys can access them. I don't mind you guys exploring. It's more the glitching and trying to get around obvious barriers that's a problem. That bullwhip grapple has been the bane of my existence. I'm just gonna say it like that, Harley. Now, I don't mean any, like, this is not like a how dare you moment. Like, we love that you guys are so adventurous and want to explore. We're just asking if you could curb the impulse to glitch your way into things, please. New question. Any news on a replacement for stables/kennels? Details, I'ma miss my good boys who killed hundreds of skellies and charging into battle on top of my steed. So, with regards to kennels for dogs, no. There is not at this point likely to be a replacement specifically for the dog kennel plugin. For the stables for the horses, we have previously said that we want to make replacements for especially the e-store specific horses and the event ones, because I think Hollows is ones that were mentioned before as well. Those are still in progress. We still recommend you take a screenshot of your stables if you have any of these purchase horses. If you have vanilla horses, I would recommend you go find yourself some more vanilla horses. Question. Why does Snow not give excavation EXP? Details, I know this is all work in progress. I'm going to have a follow-up question about this, but just want to make sure if this is intended. I am not positive that that's intended to not give excavation EXP. There are still some adjustments that probably need to be made to things, so at this time, I'm going to say that it's potentially to be adjusted. We will have to look into it. Pretty much
A
with...
lot of the Aurelium skills need some balancing work.
Yeah. If you discover something that isn't giving EXP and you think it should, you can report that as well, because it is, with the massive amount of blocks that exist in Minecraft, it is also always possible we have missed something. We are human. I can't guarantee that everything that you think should be giving EXP is intended to give EXP, but we can certainly look into it and make sure that it wasn't simply missed. And that also, I'm just going to answer the question now because I looked ahead to it. So for Aurelium EXP yields, because it kind of ties in with this. Like we said with regards to this, they are all likely to potentially be adjusted at this point. Not necessarily everything, but it's definitely requiring some balancing and things that have to continue to be looked at. Question. Can we get a black magic / necro spell that lets you smite a player and cause the 4 skeleton archer horsemen on them? Details. I noticed they tend to spawn occasionally in Kane, but their riders poof due to the perms, and thought that would be a nice spell to have in PvP / PvE dungeons. All spells are being redone, essentially, and that's part of what the GMs are working on in general, but I think that's hilarious. I can't promise anything, but that is in fact hilarious. So if that is something that they can do for a spell or find a use for other than as a joke, it might be nice. Alternately, we have several staff members who are fond of making joke items, so maybe it'll come out as a Voxbox item down the line, if not, because we love jokes here. So the answer would be possibly, but it's a wait and see at this point. What are the crowns for? Details. Someone had said that there is more coming to be able to use with them, so I'm wondering if it's better to save them. What else is coming up? So I'm assuming you mean the netherite crowns. So the netherite crowns are a currency that we created with future uses intended as well. It is the compensation for the MCMMO skill power level that we've been offering. You get a certain amount of crowns based on your power level. Currently, what you can buy with them are the Aurelium XP boosts at the Guild Hall, but they definitely are intended for future content as well. However, we are not ready to release details on what that's going to be, but there are also going to be other methods of acquiring crowns later on once we have more uses for them as well. So I don't want you to think that you only have these to spend for forever. Oh, and yes, you can also get them in the mystery package. They are one of the options from the mystery box as well. Question. What's the staff stance on going to dungeons via warps at the moment? You'll die instantly, but it's possible, or something like ruins / arena. Details, just something to cure some boredom with when I don't feel like mining or town building. So, dungeons as a whole are being reworked, as well as, obviously, we've said it before, classes and spells are being redone, so those aren't all functional. We don't really have a rule against you using the warps to go to the dungeons, but if you're expecting loot, they won't be dropping anything because they are currently considered non-functional. They still, from what I've heard, seem to still be spawning mobs that you can still fight, but you won't be getting any particular loot from them like bosses. Question. Is there any news on events in the last part of the year? Details. I'm wondering if they're going to happen or if they have been scrapped to focus on the map change and the bug fixes and balances changes that come with that. So we have actually said in at least a couple of meetings, I think too, but we do intend for the next event to be Harvest. So Harvest generally happens somewhere around mid-September. I'm not going to give a date yet because we don't have an exact specific date, but currently our plans still intend for Harvest to be the next event. For any events beyond that, we have not come up with any details to share with you guys as to what's going to happen. So the rest are still a work in progress, but we will keep you guys updated when we can. Since this goes along with the events, I'm going to answer this. Events are going to be on Netherite only. Netherite is the server going forward. The old maps are still open to allow people to move things, but they are basically at this point considered like discontinued. You can still take your stuff from them. Short of something like a game-breaking bug occurring, it's mostly up at the moment for you guys to move your things over. Next question. Wasn't sure if this is supposed to happen, but when I leave /land chat to talk in global, it tends to put me in local chat. Bug? That sounds like a bug. If you have any details on that, such as the exact commands you're using specifically, I would suggest that you please put in a ticket for us on the server with any details that you could give us, and we can definitely try to investigate that. I'm literally wondering if local chat is just registering something it's not supposed to, but we have to look into that. Question: as we have no court and all, any idea as to how lands conflicts will be handled, assuming outposts come in the future? Details: the server is fresh, so this won't happen soon, but when it eventually gets unbearable, I can't imagine staff will handle it all one by one. So, as I mentioned previously, outposts, which are going to be called camps, are intended to be coming. As regards for lands conflicts, most of the time things like that are kind of on a case-by-case basis. So staff will have to investigate them right now. We don't have currently any plans directly to bring court back. I know it's been brought up before that we're not 100% we're not opposed to it, but it would be likely in the far future. So it is going to fall into staff hands at the moment.
Hopefully in 3 months we have more hands on it.
And I will also take this moment to remind you, if you are interested at all in any sort of staff position, please feel free to make an application on the Reddit. And you can apply for more than one as well. We just won't bring you on for more than one, but if you're interested in a few different areas and have skills that would work with those different areas, you can make more than one application. How long are the old servers going to stay up? We have said we would like them to be up for a few months. I know it's also been indicated that we were not 100% positive on how long that they would be up because financial reasons and other things can sometimes play a factor. At this point in time, the timeline we are looking at is going to be early November for when they will be closing. We don't have a specific date yet, but we will get that to you as soon as we have the actual specific date worked out. Barring some unforeseen complication coming up. Question: why don't drip leaves tilt you off downtown? They just smoke. I'm not 100% sure, but I imagine that might have something to do with the way permissions are set downtown for certain things. Basically, the way that things are set up so that players can interact with certain things and not mess with other things. It's likely that it's probably that, but we can look into it. Question: is /message going to be fixed? Detail: at the moment you can't autofill, it just shows up as an error. It still works, but is not as user-friendly. So I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even realize this was broken till a few people complained to me about it, because it works for me. Now, the fact that it works for me indicates that we have some sort of permission not set up correctly, so we will definitely look into this and try to get that fixed for everyone. And this is a very good example of why you have to report something that you think is not working the way it's supposed to, because sometimes we don't realize it's a bug because it works for other people. Is the ability to make crates working on Netherite yet? Okay, so I answered this earlier. Right now, no, the ability is not there as of yet. So I'm just going to reiterate the longer answer I gave earlier, but it is intended to work, but it essentially requires rewriting a significant section of the things that manage the actual making of crates. So it's tedious work that is being worked on, but it is going to take a little time. In the meantime, the option to move anything that was 1.16.5 or before back to the old servers and creating it there does exist. We realize it's not ideal, though. Are the mana costs for active skills going to be rebalanced? Details: farming skill replenish currently costs over 23 mana for me and is only going up The wisdom skills are not really a viable way to increase my mana. I have no idea. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I imagine it is something that can be looked at and is one of Aurelium skills, as we mentioned with like XP related, has to be kind of looked at and balanced as well. So the mana costs for those things likely also have to be looked at as well. Can we still ticket inactive members and mares on the old servers to claim belongings, etc.? I am assuming you are meaning like inactive residents and things like that. So like for your own town, I don't personally have an issue with that as they're still around. Previously, staff was allowing land claim tickets for inactive residents, mayorship transfer, or for the purposes of like expansion on your town borders. The expansion on town borders one is not going to be considered anymore because you shouldn't be expanding your town borders on the old maps. But for inactive residents, or if you need a mayor transfership, we do also allow assistance to inactive mayors to ticket to get the bonus plots as well from the town if your mayor is inactive. Question. If the funding is there, would the old servers be able to stay open longer if that is something the community may require? Technically, the question of like, if we had the money, could we leave them open longer? I mean, we could. The question of whether or not we would need to, I'm not really seeing a situation in which we'd necessarily need to keep them open longer. But there's also other problems besides the funding. As an example, having all 4 of the servers open causes different issues too, with some plugins and with some bugs and things like that. So I don't really see that we would keep them open too much longer, barring some horrific accident of some kind. I don't really...
They do have to close eventually.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. They have to close eventually. And no matter when we close them, there is always going to be someone who is going to come back and be like, oh no, I lost all my stuff. Like, there's just no way to absolutely guarantee everyone gets to get every last little thing. It sucks. Like, we recognize that there's going to be people that just get kind of, I don't know how to say it in a friendly member, so let me rephrase. There are going to be, for some people, it's just never going to be enough time, and there's just only so much we can do. Unfortunately, they have to close eventually, and I'd much prefer it to be when we decide and be able to give you guys hopefully enough heads up to the actual specific date once we have it, as opposed to them being like some emergency or lack of funding happens and we have to just shut them off with no warning.
And we will give warning.
That said, if you know people who haven't returned and may care to move their things in case they should want to return, even if they're not necessarily in the mindset to want to actively play, you can always reach out and let your friends know. But we only have so many sources to be able to reach people, and when we've utilized all those sources and people just still don't come back or aren't able to come back to get their things, there's just not much more we can do about it. If someone is having a specific issue connecting to the server themselves, please make sure they are using 1.18.2 and not 1.19. Make sure that they are also using the correct IP, which is play.voxmc.org. If those things don't resolve it, you can always contact a staff member and we can try to further work out what the issues are. Question: will we be getting races back, like werewolf, vampire? So I answered this question earlier, actually. That happens a lot. It's okay, because not everybody's here at exactly the same time. But the kind of short answer is races are being worked on, and they are a work in progress. There is likely going to be some new races. There's going to be some of the old races still too, but some things are subject to change, so we're not giving a definitive list at the moment because it's not been fully finalized as to which races we're going to be having. Question. Any plans for more streams that aren't specific to announcements and questions? Yes, we plan to have more streams. What streams we intend to have? Not quite sure. We've discussed various different types of ones that we could do, like some kind of competitions we could show off, or I know there's been talk of people wanting to see me torture myself in dungeons. However, some of the ideas probably like as an example, dungeons are not functional. Gear, spells, classes aren't functional at the moment. So I wouldn't be doing dungeon runs until stuff is functional. However, that would be a really cool way to show it off once it's done, so could easily be done. There's a lot of different things we could do, and I, for one, am open to lots of suggestions. So if people have suggestions of stuff they think would be interesting to watch on stream or on a video, because I really enjoy video editing. I'm finding myself really enjoying it. So I don't mind us recording stuff and showing it off to you guys, like how we did the trailer about The Forsaken, which I am still excited once it's ready for you guys to fight. I know y'all will really enjoy it. And I'll enjoy seeing someone else die to it, to be honest. That was the long answer. The short answer is yes, we plan to have more streams that aren't announcements or questions. As for the what, we're open to many different ideas. Question. Has PvP been abandoned in general as a worked part of Vox? It seems that Arena, the old factions, ruins, all that stuff has only ever gotten deleted for some reason of player aggression or another. Is it just better to forget about it? So, PvP has not been abandoned. Certain things are currently not working, but we have not abandoned PvP. I don't think factions necessarily would be coming back. Arena is probably going to depend on what the GMs can do, and we have some ideas for other things to do, but PvP has not been abandoned. There are a lot of people for which PvP is kind of an essential part of their enjoyment. And much like we like to cater to people who enjoy farming and enjoy mining, we also want to be a place where people can enjoy PvP. So that content has not been abandoned. I can't fully give any specific details on what's coming because things are still, as always, a work in progress. I keep saying that. I know that it's not a good answer for you, or it's not a satisfying answer. It is an answer. It's not a satisfying answer, but we do intend to have PvP content still be a part of Vox. But everything's just in beta right now with Netherite because we have to get certain systems working. Classes, races, and gear need to be reworked and worked on before we can work on PvP because the gear and spells and things have to be balanced for PvP and PvE. So we have to, it's kind of a progress that happens like with all of that all at once that we have to do before we can encourage specific PvP type Vox content. You could technically just take to Wilderness and fight people that you find in Wilderness, which is a very good reason that I don't go into Wilderness. But we want you guys to be able to enjoy playing Minecraft how you enjoy playing Minecraft, and for some people that is PvP. So that will never be content that we completely just get rid of. We will never make it so that there's not something for PvP people. A lot of the content is just still being worked on. Question. How will we I'm assuming be working with blocks and items that are not easy to use in vanilla means? Details. Blocks like bedrock are a burden to use in a normal setting since I need to tick it every time I need to pick up a block. How will this be resolved? So we do have a custom item that does allow you to pick up bedrock. It's called the power pick. However, because it runs off of a socket, that is one of the items that needs to be redone in our new custom item system that's being developed. So for the moment, the only way for you to get bedrock moved, if the power pick, obviously it's not working on netherite, so the only way for you to get bedrock moved would be to tick it. I realize this is annoying. I would caution anyone using bedrock as part of their builds to just be very careful. However, if you do happen to place a block incorrectly, you may tick it, as long as you also possess a power pick. I realize the pick itself doesn't work, but if it were working, then you'd be able to do it yourself. So showing that you have the pick is how we're basically justifying moving the blocks for you at this point. So just basically, if you misplace a block, tick it and put the power pick in your inventory, and we can move it for you. That's really the only option until the item gets redone. But at least it's still an option. And though it may be frustrating for you guys, I get that, I don't want you to worry that you're putting in too many tickets. If you're building like a big area with it, it might be better to wait till you're like done with a layer to make sure if you've misplaced a few that you're not doing it for like every single one. But tickets are meant to be a way for you guys to get stuff fixed and like report bugs and things like that. So never worry that there's too many tickets being put in. Besides the fact the ticket number shot right up when we were doing when we were doing the data replacement, so don't even worry about it. Question. Can we ticket for job levels on the old servers to be updated on netherite if we gained more after they were initially transferred? Details. Following the initial transfer of job levels from diamond to netherite, I gained additional levels as a result of farming to transfer crops over. Would I be able to ticket to have them added to my total on netherite, or is it too much hassle if given permission for everyone to do that? So the answer, unfortunately, is no. The stats that were transferred over from the old servers were intended to be fixed at that moment that they were transferred. If you've gained some more levels, unfortunately, it's just how it is. I realize that answer is not probably what everybody wanted to hear, but I do also think it would be quite a hassle to have allowed that. And there are plenty of people who also got extra levels from tearing down their farms. I'm right there with you. My transfer ticket for Emerald stats were done right away before I ever touched my farm, so I do understand that it kind of is like, oh darn, I could have gotten those extra levels, but unfortunately the answer is going to be no. Question. On the topic of it's a work in progress, who coordinates what the devs/GMs are working on in each sprint/interval? Is it just what they voluntarily feel like doing at the time? Details. The latter isn't a bad thing by nature, it's just that had we a better idea on what's being looked into, when we would be more cooperative and hopeful towards it, regardless of whether or not the time allotted turns out to be true or not. The community is certainly nice enough. So we tend not to give very specific dates on things unless we're sure. The reason for this is there is a kind of a consistent problem that has happened in the past a lot, where a deadline would be told and then not met, or not met even close to it. And it sort of ends up creating an expectation of, oh, well, they gave us a date, but they're never going to get it in time. And it creates kind of a constant cycle of disappointment, which, though people may be nice and may be like, oh, it's okay, and all of that, I don't want us to get into a cycle of continually letting down the community. So that's why a lot of times we don't give a specific date. Now, as for the way that projects are done and coordinated, we do have a staff hierarchy. On the development side of things, the GMs are managed by a team lead, as all the other development branches sort of funnel into team lead and then admin and, well, Amy. So the management team, which consists of myself, J-Burb, Sajin, and Amy, overall manage who's responsible for doing what tasks and in what order, or what their day-to-day quote-unquote work is. So Jin specifically tends to give the GMs their tasks. We give the architects their tasks. We give the community managers their tasks. And we set expectations or deadlines as needed amongst the staff themselves. Jin is at the moment pretty much at the top of the development food chain, so to speak. He has been doing so much of the work and managing all the things that need to get done, especially from the GM side. But yeah, overall, management is who manages all of that, and obviously different branches of staff have different tasks and different expectations and deadlines. As for the specific projects, what I've been saying, and is actually what's basically the forefront of being worked on, is races, classes, gear, because they all kind of tie together. So for development staff, that's kind of what's being worked on. And I see people have found me. Guys finally found it. Welcome. The problem we ran into with updating a lot of our plugins is that we had a lot of things that were either custom made for Vox or custom edited for Vox, and that led to a lot of problems when upkeeping these plugins didn't really work out very well. A lot of things were patched together with band-aid fixes repeatedly, to the point where a lot of Vox's plugins from the old servers is essentially held together by hope, sweat, and tears. The Glassbreaker or Lightbreaker is currently on the old servers. Again, it will not currently function on Netherite, but it will eventually be replaced to function. But it will allow you to move glass. The Glassbreaker obviously removes glass and glass panes, and the Lightbringer removes glowstone sea lanterns and redstone lamps, and they are both available downtown at spawn by the fountain with the villager that says Glassbreaker. Question: any spoilers for more MC pets like the Griffin? Details. Also, any chance we can ride them in the overworld? I will say we do intend to have more of them. There are actually, we haven't released them yet, but there's a couple that we definitely could do. Jin was literally riding them around downtown when we released the first one to show them off a little bit. But we do intend to have more, and there may be, I'm not going to promise anything, but there may be the possibility to ride them places other than downtown somewhere in the future. It might also be tied to specific pets and not just all of them in general. Would you consider leaving Vox boxes on the eStore for more than a month? Currently, the monthly Vox box is only up for a month. Would you consider leaving them up for longer? You know, that's not a bad suggestion either. Some of our boxes don't always do particularly well, and sometimes, obviously, people don't have money to spend, which is totally valid. I will say, like, June and July didn't do particularly well, and sometimes it's a content thing, I'm sure, and sometimes it's just people don't have money, and we appreciate every bit of money you guys do spend to help support us. We don't expect it at any point. As for leaving them up, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. We do also want to get the old, like the classic Vox boxes back up on the store. It's just when we were moving data over from the older eStore to the one we now control and have, things were missed. That was one of them. So we have to basically recreate everything. And since we have to recreate items and redo cards, it seemed like it might be better to wait until afterwards. However, there were many people that, like, I had at least 3 or 4 different people specifically ask me if there was a way to buy some of the ones they'd missed from this past year, which is why we're currently doing the sale on the old Vox boxes on the February, March, April, June, and July boxes up on the eStore for a 30% discount. Just gonna plug that for a moment, so that people can rebuy them. I'm not opposed to leaving them up for a little bit longer, but the only kind of issue that might happen with that is I don't know that if we were doing that, if we'd necessarily continue doing one every month and instead maybe do one every other month and then it's up for 2 months. I don't know. There definitely could be some adjustments we could make with Vox boxes to make them easier, or even maybe trimming them down and making them cheaper. But yeah, in addition to the new monthly release, I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely something we can discuss and talk about. I'm certainly not opposed to it, but obviously I can't make a unilateral decision. Okay, so here is where we will conclude our meeting. I want to thank you guys for coming and listening. Please remember, if you have any suggestions or any ideas for things like content, Voxbox toys, themes, any suggestions really for the server, not just limited to Voxbox, please post your suggestions or ideas of any kind to the Reddit. If you would like to apply for a Vox staff position, please use the staff application templates that matches the staff position you are interested in. But if you are going to apply for more than one staff position, which you may do, please make sure to make separate applications for each position you are interested in, and make sure that your information and the template you're doing match the one you're applying for correctly. If you want to help Vox out, please use our e-store at shop.voxmc.org to purchase yourself some fun little things for the server, the Vox boxes, the mystery package if you need to feed that gambling edition, and all of that. Everything that you spend goes directly into maintaining and keeping the servers up. No staff member sees that money. We don't get paid. We're volunteer. So if you choose to buy from our shop, it goes directly to supporting the server. We have started streaming on the Twitch, obviously, Vox Populi Media, so you can follow the Twitch account to keep up with streams or look for them in the announcements. We do not have a set schedule for when we will be doing them outside of the normal community meeting, but we will be doing some other ones down the line, so please look out for those. And we also have a YouTube channel with the VODs from prior community meetings uploaded, where you can go and view them if you've missed one or listened to them, as well as a few interesting videos and probably more to come, such as things showing off bosses, a blooper reel, which everyone seems to enjoy watching staff derp around, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Am I a YouTuber yet? We appreciate all of the support that you guys share with us, and we appreciate everything that you guys do to be part of the Vox community. Without you guys, without the community, there would not be a Vox to be part of. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you later.